Day 15, page 55, chapter 4. Confidence in SDA organization reaffirmed. We cannot now step off the foundation that God has established. We cannot now enter into any new organization, for this would mean apostasy from the truth. I am instructed to say to Seventh-day Adventists the world over, God has called us as a people to be a peculiar treasure unto himself. He has appointed that his church on earth shall stand perfectly united in the spirit and counsel of the Lord of hosts to the end of time. At times when a small group of men entrusted with the general management of the work have, in the name of the General Conference, sought to carry out unwise plans to restrict God's work, I have said that I could no longer regard the voice of the General Conference, represented by these few men, as the voice of God. But this is not saying that the decisions of the General Conference, composed of an assembly of duly appointed representative men from all parts of the fields, should not be respected. God has ordained that the representatives of his church from all parts of the earth, when assembled in general conference, shall have authority. The error that some are in danger of committing is in giving to the mind and judgment of one man or a small group of men the full measure of authority and influence that God has invested in his church in the judgment and the voice of the General Conference Assembly to plan for the prosperity and advancement of his work. God has invested his church with special authority and power which no one can be justified in disregarding and despising, for he who does this despises the voice of God. I am encouraged and blessed as I realize that the God of Israel is still guarding his people and that he will continue to be with them even to the end. A statement by W.C. White. I told her, Mrs. Lydia Scott, how Mother regarded the experience of the remnant church and of her positive teaching that God would not permit this denomination to so fully apostatize that there would be the coming out of another church. Spiritual revival still needed. One day at noon, I was writing of the work that might have been done in the last General Conference if the men in the positions of trust had followed the will and the way of God. Those who have had great light have not walked in the light. The meeting was closed and the break was not made. Men did not humble themselves before the Lord as they should have done, and the Holy Spirit was not imparted. I had written thus far when I lost consciousness, and I seemed to be witnessing a scene in Battle Creek. We were assembled in the auditorium of the tabernacle. Prayer was offered, a hymn was sung, and prayer was again offered. Most earnest supplication was made to God. The meeting was marked by the presence of the Holy Spirit. No one seemed to be too proud to make a heartfelt confession, and those who led in this work were the ones who had the influence, but had not before had the courage to confess their sins. There was rejoicing such as never before had been heard in the tabernacle. Then I aroused from my unconsciousness, and for a while could not think where I was. My pen was still in my hand, and the words were spoken to me. This might have been. All this the Lord was waiting to do for his people. All heaven was waiting to be gracious. I thought where we might have been had thorough work been done at the last General Conference. I have been deeply impressed by scenes that have recently passed before me in the night season. There seems to be a great movement, a work of revival going forward in many places. Our people were moving into line, responding to God's call.